Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Layla, and for today's TikTok Tuesday, we're going to be taking a look at some debt confessions. It was about this time of year, 7 years ago, when I reached my highest point of debt, and it took me about 5 years to become completely debt-free, and at this point, debt freedom, being debt-free, has become like a personality trait of mine. I love being debt-free and I don't ever want debt again, aside from a mortgage, but that's a bit different. I know that the people who watch me regularly or who have been following me for years are pretty familiar with my story because I talk about it so much. Shout out to y'all. Thank you so much for your support. But if you don't know, back in June 2018, that's when I reached my highest point of debt, over $82,000. Actually, it was honestly more than that because I was co-signed on a car too. That's not factored into the $82K because I also ended up paying that down, which was like $2,500 extra. But within the $82,000, most of it was student loan debt. That was about $49,000. I had my car loan, credit card debt, and then I owed my sister money. I actually saw a comment recently where it was on like my 100K net worth video where I kind of shared my journey, and they were confused about how I owed my sister money, and it was because I was living with my sister. We bought a townhouse together. It was only under her name, but I gave a little bit of a down payment, I think $3,500, and then I had, I was paying not half of the mortgage and bills, but maybe, I don't remember the percentage. That was years ago. But throughout 2017, there were several months where I just could not pay her for the house. So that is what I owed her. Like, I could not cover my portion of the bills because I was barely making any money. So that's how I owed her money. But yeah, I really hated the idea of owing banks money, owing other people money. I didn't like the weight of that on my shoulders. So I decided to prioritize that and became completely debt-free in about 5 years. I think it was absolutely worth it. I'm so very grateful that I did that. One of the main things that I'm most proud of in my life, and I think being debt-free opens up a lot of opportunities. You have different options. I feel like it played a big part in me deciding to leave my job, because if I had like a car payment and a whole bunch of credit card debt and all these other things to pay for, then it probably wouldn't have been an option for me to leave my job and take that risk. I also just think it creates a more stress-free life. Just knowing that I don't have anything like that to worry about it just helps me sleep at night, So absolutely worth it. And for today's TikTok Tuesday episode, I do not have any TikToks selected, but I just searched debt confession, and I'm going to click through these and react to them in real time, give you my thoughts on them. I'm also going to make sure that these are all from 2025, and I just want to give a shout out ahead of all of these to these people for being transparent about their debt. I know that it's not an easy thing to confess to. I know that when I was documenting my journey, it wasn't something that I was really like ashamed of. Even to this day, anything with my finances, I'm not ashamed or afraid to talk about it. I'm an open book. I don't see money as a taboo topic whatsoever, but I know so many other people, and just in general, that's still a taboo topic. So I really appreciate when people are transparent with their numbers. And there's a lot of judgment out there, so to put yourself out there on the internet and talk about these things isn't necessarily easy. So shout out to them. And yeah, let's see what we get into.
Back in September, I turned 30 and I decided that it was time to take control and start getting my life together. Since then, I have lost 50 pounds. I've taken back control of my schedule by going back to the ICU and working 312s instead of 5/8s. I have started budgeting, which has helped me stop living paycheck to paycheck. I've been able to increase my credit score by over 100 points, and I've been able to save over 3 months of living expenses for my emergency fund. I told myself that once I hit that milestone, I would start aggressively paying off my debt. Which brings us here, my debt confession. I started 2025 with almost $100,000 in debt, $98,983.09 to be exact. Even though my primary goal this year has been building my emergency fund, I was able to make like the occasional extra payment here and there, bringing my current debt total to $96,266.80, meaning I've paid off about $2,800 so far this year. I've seen enough of these videos to know that you guys are going to want to know exactly how I got myself into this mess. So here is a little breakdown of my debt. I owe $1,374.97 on a Capital One credit card. I owe $4,828.72 on my son's dirt bike. I owe $14,956.59 on a personal loan that I originally took out when I was fighting for custody of my son. And since then, if I've been in a pinch, I've just kind of added onto that loan. No bueno. I owe $32,330.07 on my car loan. I know better now, but I did buy a brand new car back in 2022. And then finally, my biggest debt, I owe $42,776.45 in student loans. I am a registered nurse. I love my job. I do not regret the student loans. I wish I did not have them, but we're gonna work hard on getting rid of them. So now that we are all on the same page, I would love it if you stuck around and followed me along on this journey as I aggressively pay off my almost $100,000 worth of debt. I'm really so excited to share my progress with you guys and cheer you along on your own debt-free journeys if that's something that you're going through. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, you are my favorite and I love you the most, and I will.
First of all, she is killing it in everything. I love a good transformation. I think people don't realize how much they're capable of, and you can just do, like, your life can literally change in 3 months. More realistically, it's going to take longer than that. Like, it's going to be 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years. But every tiny little step, little tiny shifts in your habits, or if you really want something and you're just working toward it, your life can change dramatically. And whether that be weight loss, money, business, whatever it is that you're working toward, your life can change pretty quickly. You'd be surprised. So I love to hear it, between the credit score going up, the weight loss, her budgeting, which you heard her saying that it allowed me to stop living paycheck to paycheck. The importance of budgeting, y'all. That's why I always preach about it. But yeah, this is really cool that she's documenting this. Quite a bit of debt. Student loans is the bulk of it, but she is using that loan, so that is the ideal situation. I talked about that in the student loan TikTok Tuesday video. And then obviously some of it sounds like it might have been just spending when you have children or going through a divorce, that type of thing. I don't know if she was going through a divorce or just trying to get custody of her child, but that was the personal loan she mentioned. So things like that. Anytime lawyers have to get involved, that gets really expensive really, really quickly. So I'm gonna follow her actually. Her TikTok handle is allison.pop, allison.popp. I'll put that up on the screen if y'all are interested in following her. She posted this back in March, so I'll have to go check out her page and see what sort of progress she made, because this is exactly how I started. I just, not TikTok, but on YouTube, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna document this, and that serves as motivation in and of itself. All right, next one.
If you guys had a family member offer to help you pay off all your consumer debt, would you take it? My name is Neela, and my husband and I have been on this debt pay down journey to try to pay off $18,000 worth of debt this year. We have been doing a ton of different things to help pay down this debt. I've been doing side hustles. My husband's been working extra hours at work and getting side jobs as well. I'm hoping I'll be able to grow this account to 10,000 people so that I can monetize that, and I'm so close. So if you guys want to follow along, I would appreciate that so much. Here's my confession. We had a family member at the start of this whole thing come to us and offer us the money to pay off our debts. Now, we were going to have to pay this money back, but the idea was that we wouldn't be paying interest. We actually said no thank you to this offer. Sometimes I wonder if we're really stupid for saying no, and I'm sure a lot of people will probably say we are, but here's why we said no. We knew that the reason we were kind of in the situation that we were was because things needed to change. We needed to create different habits, and we couldn't just keep doing the same thing. And by doing this journey on our own, we have learned so much over the course of 3 months. We have changed so many things about our money, the way we view our money, and the way that we spend our money. On top of that, we have been able to pay over $13,000 towards our debt. We both felt that if we had said yes to taking that money, then those changes wouldn't have happened. We would have fallen right back into the old ways and ended up right back in the same position that we were at the start of all this. Also, as well, we probably wouldn't have felt the need to pay that back as quickly as we have paid down this debt. We were obviously extremely grateful for this offer, but at the end of the day, I think we both just felt like this was a hole we dug ourselves into, and we needed to be the ones to dig ourselves out of it to really learn from it. I am curious, what would you have done?
This is a very interesting story. Very nice of the family member to offer that, but I also would decline something like that. And if I were, if she were to come to me, if anybody were to come to me and be like, hey, this is what my family member is offering, what do you think I should do? I think what she explained is one thing, but something else she didn't mention is that that person may start judging or kind of like monitoring everything you're spending money on after they gave you money. So let's say you had 20K of debt across a number of things, and they're like, all right, here's 20K, no interest on that, just pay it off in whatever agreed time. And let's say y'all agreed to 2 years that you would pay it back, and then you want to go on a vacation, not after, during the 2 years. And that person may be like, why are they going on a vacation even though they owe me money? So they can start to, maybe they'll say something or judge you for it. I don't know. Like they may cause problems because of that. And I think that just having everything within yourself, between yourself and your spouse or whatever the situation is a lot better. There are also alternatives, like you can do debt consolidation, balance transfers, refinancing. Like there are just different options that can help you to get 0% interest loans. So I am glad she didn't take that offer, because you will learn so much more about money by handling these things on your own. And then you still have the flexibility to kind of handle everything how you want to without having to worry about somebody watching what you're doing. So very interesting.
Today we are doing a debt confessions update video. So let's get started on the numbers. So I started the year at $78,607.65 in debt. Although I'm looking at this huge number, my goal is to still pay this off. Let's talk about what makes up this $78,000 in debt. So my largest debt is my student loan, and that at the start of the year was $43,992.84. My second largest is my credit cards at $33,713.20. And then the last, sort of, asterisk, is $901.61 for my personal loan. What makes up this $33,000, which is actually now $29,985.76. I didn't do that, huh? And my student loan is now at $43,638.97, which is only a $353 difference from the start of the year, and it is the beginning of April. And what makes up those current balances? So I started the year with my largest card at $17,460, and it is currently $17,187. So that's a $273 decrease. My second largest card I started at $9,291, and it's currently at $9,016, which is a $274 decrease. My third largest, I started at $4,477, and now it's at $3,782, and that's a $695 decrease, and that is because I recently made a large payment on it. And then my smallest card, I started at $2,484, and now it's at $0. So I did pay off a card so far for this year. Like I said, I also paid off that small loan of $901. I have to do it again. So I'm working on that second card now. And my plan is to hopefully have that paid off by the end of April, actually. So I can start hammering at these bigger cards. That's where I am. So that money is going straight to my credit cards to help me accelerate this process, which I'm really excited about. Just to wrap this up and do a little recap, this is where I am with my debt. I started the year at $78,607.65. I'm currently at $73,624.73. And that is a movement or a decrease of $4,982.92. If you have any questions,
love the transparency. Sounds like she's doing a pretty good job. This was back in, it was May 15th that she posted this. So making some good progress, a little bit over 1,000 per month or so. It sounds like she's doing the debt avalanche method, where you tackle the highest interest debts first, because she has a number of credit cards and it looks like she's going from one credit card to the next, and then leaving the student loans for last, which I think that's what I did. I did the debt avalanche. That's my preferred method. You pay off debt faster. It helps you to save money, but doing what works best for you. I did go ahead and give her a follow as well because I would love to see her journey. I would also love to hear the beginning of her journey, like how she got into all of this credit card debt. Her TikTok is _love Saya, _love SIAH.
I'm 30 years old with $77,000 worth of consumer debt, and this is what my monthly bill breakdown is. I have 11 credit cards and 3 personal loans with due dates that vary across the month and minimum payments ranging from $30 to $571. This brings the total sum of my payments to $1,761 a month. But recently, I got a personal loan at a reduced APR compared to my credit cards and was able to pay off all of my smaller balances and have a lower total monthly payment, despite the fact that this technically put me in more debt. I got this loan through a credit union for $8,500. It has a monthly payment of $235 a month and an APR of 14.99%. While this did help me reduce my monthly payments by over $100, one of the credit cards that I had in a financial hardship program recently, quote unquote, graduated from it, and the reduced monthly payment, reduced APR is now over, meaning that I now owe $369 a month instead of $250, and the APR is now 24.24% instead of 9.99. I called the credit card company twice, and they told me I would not qualify for another program until January of next year. And until then, my options are to continue paying this minimum payment of $369 with 24.24%, meaning that a majority of what I'm paying is going towards interest, or I could work with a credit counseling company where they would negotiate the APR down to a lower percent, close my account, and I would pay them directly, and they would handle the payments to my Discover card. I spoke to one yesterday, and the total monthly payment would be $417, which is $58 more than I'm paying now, but the APR would go down to 6.99%. The actual amount going towards my balance would be $343, meaning that it would take me 57 months, and I would pay a total of $2,900 in interest, with my total payments being about $19,000, versus if I just continue to pay Discover the minimum monthly payment of $369 at a 24.24% APR, the total interest I would pay is $20,000, and the total amount that I would pay over time is $36,928. In the long run, I'd be saving $17,000. And I just wonder if I'd be kicking myself in a couple years if I didn't do this debt management program. Even though I'd be making things harder for myself right now.
I personally am not a huge fan of debt management programs, debt relief, any of those things. All of this can absolutely be handled on your own. I think some people who are watching this are going to have different opinions on that. And I'm absolutely, please comment down below if you did debt relief, what your experience was like. I just think sometimes those can be risky or predatory, or you may be signing on to something that you don't 100% understand. And I just urge people to be really careful with that, because everything can be done on your own. For her situation, she has lots of credit card debt, lots of payments, over $1,700 per month. There were so many numbers in there, so I'm not gonna be able to keep up with everything. She ended up getting a personal loan, getting rid of some of her credit card debt, and now it's with a personal loan. She can probably, after a few months, do that again with this credit card. Like, I know that right now it's a higher payment and a higher interest rate, but she probably will be able to get a card soon where she could get 0% and do a balance transfer and have that 0% for 18 months, 24 months, whatever it may be. Or she may be able to do another personal loan. But really, if you just go ham on, that top debt that you're focusing on, the highest interest rate or the smallest balance, whatever it is. So instead of worrying about and questioning, should I do this, and weighing your options, all these different questions, I would just focus on making progress on your own. That is my thought around it. I know this one did have a lot of numbers in it, so kind of hard to keep up with, but what do y'all think?
Girl, yes, I am in $63,000 worth of debt, most of that being credit card debt. So let's just get into it. It's Casey. I'm a 30-year-old mom of 2 who also owns a mini farm, and my husband and I moved to our dream house in 2023, at the end of 2023. And since then, and even before then, I have racked up a ridiculous amount of credit card debt because I like to make myself feel better by buying things that I probably shouldn't. And I was living outside of my means, and I'm terrible with money. Well, I was terrible with money. I'll be the first to admit. So let's just lay all that out right now. I know that this is ridiculous. I know that I've put myself in a really shitty spot, but this is all my fault and I have to take full responsibility. So I am putting myself out there to do these challenges, to do these series, to try to make money off of social media because I know it's possible. I've seen it change people's lives. And I just want to see if it'll work for me because I want to explore every possible avenue of trying to get out of this debt that I put myself in. I also want to mark that my husband is very good with money and none of this is really his fault. The credit card debt is solely mine. There are 2 loans on here that both of us had agreed to, which I'll get into in a couple minutes. If you're not interested in learning about all the mistakes that I've made when it comes to financial stability and financial decisions, then you can just scroll on. But if you're someone who's struggling with your finances, stay put because you're not alone and a lot of us are struggling out here. So let's get into it. I'm about $63,000 in the hole, and a lot of that being credit cards. So I have 3 credit cards. I have a Chase card, I have a Care credit card, and I have an American Express, which I hate. The American Express card, I will put a side note in. We will be paying that off soon, thank God. My husband and I were able to get in a forbearance with our mortgage, which if you don't know that, it's where we have 6 months where we don't have to pay the mortgage and they tack it on our end of our mortgage loan. So we could save up 6 months worth of mortgage payments to pay off some debt. Pay that card off soon, thankfully. So that will take away from the debt that I'm currently in. So if I take that debt away from the rounded up number of $63,000, because it's $62,929.71 if you want to be exact, I would only be about $56,000 in debt because I have about $6,400 on the Amex card. But anyway, I digress. So the Chase card I've had pretty much my entire teenage adult life. My dad opened that credit card for me when I was in high school to put gas on just to start building my credit. Since then, obviously, I've used it for things that I didn't need. I have a Care credit card that I use for all of our animals. Emergencies go with that, which I have about $4,400 on there between all 5 of our animals. The next 3, I'm going to have to explain a little bit. So we do have a loan for a Generac. We did get a full house generator because in this house, we've lived here since October of 2023 and we have lost power almost every time we get a storm. And sometimes it's more for 24 hours. It could be even upwards of 72. The longest we were out of power was about 3.5 to 4 days. So after the 3rd or 4th time that we lost power, we decided that we should look into a generator because it's something that made sense because we have 2 young kids and I have animals in here, but that's about a $15,000 loan. Now, this next one I'm going to explain to you. Y'all are going to think I'm stupid, but you have to hear me out. I have about $16,400 worth of debt for windows in a house that I no longer live in. Previous house in Pennsylvania, when we moved in, it had been vacant for a year. The windows were probably older than I am, and they leaked and you could barely open them. So we decided to new windows through the entire house, and that was about an $18,000 feat. Obviously, we didn't have $18,000 to just pay somebody, so we got a loan. When we moved out of that house into this house, the money that we made from the sale of our previous house where the windows are, we used that money to pay off our cars. So my husband and I don't have a car payment, which I'm extremely grateful for because we'd be out of this house at this point if we had a car payment. Between our 2 car payments, we probably paid about $1,200 to $1,300 a month between the 2 cars. So we decided to take the money we made from the sale of our old house to pay off our cars so we would have more money to go towards this mortgage because the mortgage of this house is very high because we bought at a terrible time and our interest rate is 7%. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how much we pay in a mortgage out of respect for my husband because he doesn't really like talking about finances. So me even doing this is a little but most of this is my debt and my fault, and I'm not going to fault him for it. So the reason I didn't pay off the windows is because we paid off the cars, and the window payment monthly is only $240. So it made more sense to pay off the cars and have $1,300 extra a month than it did to pay off the windows and only have $240. Next loan is about $14,800, and that is just in consolidated debt from things that were years ago. So that's the consolidation loan from previous debt. So in total, I have about $62,929.71. And I would love to start paying that off. So again, like I've mentioned in the beginning of this video, I'm terrible with money, but in the last couple months, I've really gotten better at that because my credit cards are maxed out. So I don't have anything to lean on. If I don't have the money, I can't buy it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've gotten a lot better. I've been able to really think about things like when I'm buying them, I really ask myself, will this make a difference in our day-to-day life? Or is this just something that I'm seeing online or is overconsumption just getting to me? And I've really been able to do a lot better with that. We do have a lot of animals. I do have 2 horses. All of you are probably like, why the fuck did you get all these animals then? I have a lot of mental illness, okay? I have a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, PTSD, those types of things, and the animals help me. So I've always wanted some of these things. We were able to figure it out and squeeze it in. Am I being squeezed to my absolute limit, paycheck to paycheck, sometimes more than paycheck to paycheck? Yes. But I will say the animals kind of pay for themselves. So like the chickens, we sell a lot of eggs. That pays for the feed for almost all of our animals. So the animals kind of even themselves out at that point. That's where I'm at. So this is day 9 of me posting every day, but it's the first day that I'm going to go. I did a deep dive into my financials and why I want to pay off all this debt. I would love to have some extra money just to be able to put my girls in some extra things.
Okay. Kind of a lot to unwrap there. Again, just like with all of these, I appreciate the transparency and the confession in and of itself. So she admitted to making some poor decisions, that she has some maybe unhealthy relationship with emotional shopping, that type of thing, which is the case for a lot of people. That's been something I dealt with too, even in the past. There were even times during my debt-free journey where like when I got sick, and this was back in 2021, I filmed a video on it. I was sick, my dog had died, just a lot of things, like bad things were happening in my life, it felt like, and I just didn't care. It was like nothing really matters because I'm sick and my dog died and, you know, all these things. So I just spent some money. Like I just went shopping because I'm like, I don't even care right now. So certain things can affect people in different ways, and sometimes people eat more, sometimes people don't eat at all, sometimes people spend more, sometimes people just sit in bed and sleep, you know. So I can completely empathize with that. Having animals is very expensive. She did kind of explain that it does tend to pay for itself. I would argue that horses may not pay for themselves. I know that can be really expensive, but selling the eggs, that's great. It does sound like they might be a little bit house poor, meaning they may have bought too much house. She said the mortgage is really expensive. It's currently in forbearance. Not necessarily something I would recommend, but I guess that will help their situation pretty significantly to be able to catch up on some debts. And as long as from here forward, and I did start following her as well so I can see her journey, but as long as they keep these like big expensive decisions, you know, you really have to think about them and don't follow through with everything. You know, like sure, this could be their dream house, it's a farm, but can you afford it? Maybe not. So did they get into something that was maybe too much to handle? Potentially. But if they can decrease their debt and get to a point where it's like, oh, this is easy now, once that debt is gone, that'll be great, and they'll have an ideal situation. Her TikTok handle is Casey at Forsythia Farms.
So how did I get us in over $55,000 worth of credit card debt with my husband having no idea? Hi, my name is Tiffany, and if you're new to our page, my husband and I are on a journey to pay off over $55,000 worth of credit card debt that he knew nothing about until February. Now, my husband has never had anything to do with the finances. He just goes and works. The income comes in and I pay all the bills. So he has never been involved in any of the finances. So there was really no way for him to know. He has never even used a credit card. So this is how I got us to this point. First off, I was addicted to online gambling, so that's where a lot of the credit card debt came from. Now, when I wasn't able to use the credit cards to online gamble, I would take money out of our checking account that was actually supposed to go to bills, and then I would charge the bills on the credit cards, and then I wouldn't have the money from the account to pay off the credit card. So it just snowballed. Also, a little over $10,000, I had to have corrective eye surgery and cataract surgery in December. Now, he knew about that. He knew how much it was going to be, but he had no idea that I was putting it on credit cards. He thought that I was, paying it out of our savings account or something like that. He had no idea that it was going on credit cards. So that's how we got to this point. Now, since February, we have been able to pay off over $25,000 towards that credit card debt. So we are making a huge dent in it so far. If you haven't already, smash that follow button. And if you haven't...
Wow, so this woman came up a couple of times, but I skipped past her videos because she's just like, follow me to... Yeah, she was just like promoting her TikTok, which is fine, but it didn't like give her story. So this is the actual one of how she got into it, and it's $55K that she hid from her husband, and from gambling. So very interesting. I personally think that if you are in a relationship, marriage, where you are combining finances and things are joint, y'all both should be looking at things, at least somewhat, you know? And I think that can cause a couple of problems. So not only situations like this, where it can allow for your spouse to be secretive about things, which that is, I mean, I'm glad she confessed to her husband about that. But if that were to happen to me, I would feel very upset. I would feel very, very betrayed. And I'm just not sure how I would handle this, you know? But the other thing too is that if somebody in the relationship is handling everything on their own, they can tend to feel some resentment or anger or just overwhelm by it, and then maybe not make wise decisions or just feel a type of way about the relationship or with finances. And I just think it's best to be on the same page and communicate about these things, because finances are really important in a relationship. The other thing I wanted to talk about here is gambling, and I think this is something that more people are dealing with than we even know about. I heard recently, I don't know exactly like the stat or what it was, but apparently like sports betting is a huge expense these days for people. There's some like, I can't remember the stat exactly. Let me look it up. Okay, I did a quick Google search. This is an AI overview, but you know, they're pulling from different articles. So Americans wagered nearly 150 billion on legal sports betting in 2024. That's a significant increase compared to the previous year. And as far as individual spending, a recent survey suggests that sports bettors on average spent $3,284 on gambling in the past year. I mean, sure, if you want to do a little bit, dabble in a little bit of that with your friends or family, okay, but 3,000. And that's just the average. So I know that there's some outliers in that, and there's probably people who are betting 10K, 20K. And that's really scary. And that's something I think is just going to continue to increase over the years. I know that's a little bit different than online gambling, but kind of the same ballpark there. But anyway, somebody did ask, how are you dealing with your online gambling? And she responded, actually, since I started posting on TikTok, it has helped me tremendously with staying accountable. I don't even think about it anymore, and if the urge comes, I make a video. So that's good.
I'm paying off $30,000 worth of credit card debt, and I have no shame, anxiety, or fear over the fact that I have $30,000 worth of credit card debt. And the reason being is because strangers online have enough of it for me. There's no sense in me waking up every day being stressed out over my credit card debt. I've changed my habits. I'm making steps to pay it off. And every time I talk about it, there's always at least a handful of these comments that are like, you are so irresponsible. Maybe I am. Quite honestly, I don't really care if I am. My irresponsibility has gotten me a really good job. It allows me to go to school debt-free, complete free ride to school. I also am a co-chair of a nonprofit that I founded from the ground up with a group of friends of mine. And I just created a craft club right here in New Hampshire, which I really didn't think was going to be that big of a hit. But in 24 hours, I got over 600 subscribers on my website. And then I posted our first events live yesterday. And in less than 12 hours, all 3 of those events sold more than half of the tickets that we had available for them. Did I also mention that I bought my first house at 23 years old, and my mortgage nor any of my bills, including credit card bills, have ever been late? My credit card debt is like the least important thing about me, and it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, good for her. I don't think that you need to be ashamed of your debt. I don't ever want anybody who comes to me with a situation, I don't ever want them to feel shame around things, because it's something that's in the past, and you have debt, you are not debt. You know, it does not mean anything about you as long as you are doing what you need to do to change and shift your habits. It's all right if mistakes happen, that's going to happen, but work on improving yourself, and there's no need for shame whatsoever. So good for her. I love the little stories. Craft club, that's so fun. I might need to look for one nearby me, because I would love to be a part of that. But by putting yourself on the internet, whether it be YouTube or TikTok or any other platform, there does come a sense of shame around certain things. I know that even for myself, if I go over budget on something, like in a category where like in personal spending or health and beauty, where I know that there's going to be some people that judge me, even if they say that they're not, they may still be judging me or thinking like, how is this person on here talking about money and she's going over budget? That does create a sense of guilt for me. But at the end of the day, nobody like, nobody's living my life, you know? And if somebody wants to have an opinion about how I handle my money, then so be it, you know? They're not somebody who's gonna be any part of my life like that, you know? Like, they're not gonna be at my funeral or vice versa, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So by putting yourself out there, there is going to be somebody who's going to shame you no matter what. You could be making really good decisions and people are going to have something bad to say about it on the internet, because it's just the nature of the game.
I'm in my 30s and I'm almost $750,000 worth in debt. And you may ask yourself, well, how in the world did you get there? My two largest sources of debt are my student loans and my house. So my house I originally bought in 2019 for $375,000. I'm now down to $339,638. And my student loans, I graduated in 2016. I've been paying every single month since then. I originally took out a little over $200,000. I'm now at $307,870. So can you imagine? My grand total is $647,508. Now, this is wild, but a lot of healthcare professionals that I know have similar debt ranges. So we're basically worth more negative than positive. How in the world do you get out of these things? So my student loans, I've been posting a lot. I've been counting on public service loan forgiveness, and I'll talk more about that in some of my other videos.
I wouldn't say that the house, at least with the house, you have the equity in it. So if you absolutely needed to, you could, you know, sell it. It may take some time, but there's that. But with student loans, there's nothing behind that, you know? That's a lot. That's really upsetting that she took out that much and it's grown to what it's at now. Almost, what was it? Let me see. 220 to 307. Wow. Almost 100K just growing. Oh, man. I really hope that the public service loan forgiveness goes through for her. It sounds like she's in healthcare. Oh, wow, that gives me anxiety. Just, I can't imagine.
This is the scariest thing I will ever admit on the internet, but hi, I'm Lucy and I am in £12,000 of credit card debt. I know to some people that will feel like it's not very much, and to others that will feel like a hell of a lot of money to be in credit card debt too. For me personally, it feels very, very overwhelming, and that we're never going to be able to get rid of it. For the longest time, I've held so much shame around the fact that I have that credit card debt. What started out as putting a holiday on the credit card, nothing crazy, has then turned into we have a house renovation and there's things that we have to pay for to get the house done to be able to sell it and recoup our money. So we've put that on the credit card. Realistically, we haven't been using it to fund some crazy lifestyle that we can't keep up with. But nonetheless, it's still there. It's still something that we have to pay off. And with the current cost of living and all of our bills increasing literally every single month, it honestly sometimes feels like we're on a sinking ship and there's no way out. I've actually wanted to come on here for a really long time and talk about it, but at the same time, by not talking about it, it feels like I can kind of ignore it and pretend that it's not there. I know that so many other people are probably in the same situation as me. With social media usually only being a highlight reel with all the best things shown, I feel like this is something that's really, really important to talk about. I'd love to hear from anybody that is also going in the same situation, or maybe you've been in debt and you've got out of it feeling very vulnerable.
Don't have much to say on this one, but yeah, sometimes it can start with something like that, like vacation or house renovation, and then it's like, oh, I'm already in debt, might as well just what's another 1,000, what's another 2,000, and then it kind of just spirals from there. This is the importance of having savings and, you know, trying your best to build up that savings so you can prevent credit card debt or any other type of debt. Yeah, again, appreciate the transparency.
I'm 35 years old and in $169,292.74 of debt, and I still live at home with my parents. And you might as well bump that up to $266,722.97 in debt if you add in how much I will pay in interest. I started aggressively looking at my debt in January and truly didn't know the full financial picture until I got it all down on paper. Debts include 2 private student loans, 10 federal student loans, 1 auto loan, 1 private loan, and 13 credit cards. I've already taken some drastic measures to reduce spending and start side hustling. I started posting my debt payoff journey here on TikTok in hopes of growing and getting into the creator fund. So if you made it this far, thanks so much for watching and following. I'm selling my debt tracking template. I'm door dashing, donating plasma, selling items around the house, and doing TikTok shop to try and make a dent. Made some really good progress so far thanks to an annual bonus I got from my 9-to-5 job, but I've got a long way to go. I've been able to negotiate most of my interest rates on my credit cards down with the help of a debt management plan, but the interest on my student loans is wild. My 2 private student loans have interest rates of 12.75% and 8.9%, while my federal loans range from 5.8 to 6.6%. The private student loans are from my undergraduate degree, which I earned over 15 years ago. I would probably puke if I knew how much I had already paid. And to this day, I think about all the frivolous things I bought and did when I was in my teens and 20s with this money, and wow, if I would have known I would be paying for tank tops and fun nights out at bars 1,000 times over the next 15 years, I might have made some different choices. Even though I've already paid off about $31,000 of debt so far this year, I'm still not looking at being debt-free until 2040. I honestly cannot imagine another 15 years of paying on this debt, especially with so many other life milestones I want to achieve, like buying a house and having kids. I also just got engaged, and it truly makes me sick thinking about how I am bringing more than $150,000 of debt into our marriage starting out. This is not a video to complain by any means, because these were my own choices and I'm working to pay back what I owe, but I hope sharing this can resonate with others, and if you want to follow along on the journey and like and follow and share and all that fun stuff, that would be great.
This really sounds like she is not educated in finances whatsoever. Like, maybe even now, if she just realized this was an issue at 35 and earlier this year, when did she said February, right? So she posted this in March. Oh, this is so sad, man. 13 credit cards. So I don't even have 13 credit cards, and I open them for bonuses. I would have if I didn't, like, some of them close. Maybe I have 11 or 12, but the whole point of me opening credit cards is to get the bonuses and, optimize my cash back. I don't have any credit card debt. So to be opening this many credit cards just to spend money, I'm going to have to go to her page and see, like, what it all came from. That is insane. This is really stressful, and she's living at home with her parents, so that's going to help her a lot with catching up. She's not having to pay for anything, but this is so sad. This is something she can absolutely get out of it, but having that much debt sets her back a lot with, like, not being able to invest and, just slowing down the other goals that she was talking about. So yeah, I do hope she can make some money from everything that she's doing. She called out donating plasma. That's a good one for a lot of people. If you're okay with needles and you're able to donate, good strategy for making some extra cash, trying to create content, door dashing, and then her 9-to-5 job. So, and she did mention something that I want to reiterate here. She was like, had I known I was going out to bars or buying a little shirt and paying X amount for it over time, she would have made different choices. Yeah, so that $10 t-shirt that you may be buying, if you're putting it on a credit card and you're buying other clothes and then you just let it keep on growing, or if you're doing Afterpay and not making payments, like, that $10 shirt may end up costing you 30, 40, 50 bucks. And then if you're buying 10 different shirts, you got to be careful with those things. Just do not, you can buy it with the credit card, get your points, but pay it all off. Try not to buy with debt. Okay, let's just do maybe one more.
It's time for some debt transparency. I am super embarrassed to talk about this, but I figured if it's going to help someone, or it's also going to make someone feel less alone in their finances, I think it's worth posting. I'm 26 years old, living in Seattle, Washington, working a minimum wage job while I'm in esthetician school. I want to get my debt and my credit up because I want to own a business in the future, and I want to be a solo esthetician. I have to get my stuff right before I even get to thinking about opening up a business. So let's break it down. I have 3 credit cards, and I also have some student loans. This is so embarrassing. Okay. This is the credit card with the most amount on it. I owe them $4,363.43. My second credit card, I owe $4,023.15. And then I have another credit card. I tried to access their portal, but I couldn't see. But I'm going to round up. The last time I checked, I think it was $800, but I'm going to round up and say that I owe them $1,000. My student debt in total, I owe $7,611.46. So in total, my debt is $16,998.04. My plans on paying this off. I am going to be door dashing when I can. I am a barista in the morning before school. I usually work from 3 a.m. till anywhere to like 11:30 usually. And I go to school and then I usually DoorDash after. I also have a storage unit that is full to the brim of things, good stuff, that I can sell from my old apartment. Like I have anything from like a Bissell vacuum, a coffee table. I'm gonna try to flip things and sell things on Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, I hope this video makes other people feel not alone and that there are also other people in a lot of debt and we got this. I believe that I can pay this off. And I'm gonna take you guys along with me. Thank you guys so much for watching this.
The way she was talking about it, I was expecting like way more than that. So yes, it's still a decent amount. And I know that everybody's perspective on money is different, but I was expecting way more than that. So that's not too bad in my opinion. And half of it is student loans basically. So yeah, she'll absolutely be able to tackle this by working on increasing her income. I think that's one of the most important things no matter which financial journey you're on, because that's just the key to making progress is working on increasing your income. Because sure, you can reduce your expenses, cut out expenses, but there's only so much that you can cut out and reduce. So by her having a minimum wage job, that's what's going to slow this down. So this is comparable to somebody making, you know, $80,000 per year who has 40, 50K of debt for her situation. But yeah, if she works on those little side hustles, side gigs that she was talking about, she'll absolutely be able to tackle this. And the storage unit, that's a big thing. Not only selling the things that are in there, but getting rid of the storage unit itself, because that is a monthly fee. Then once you sell everything, make money from it, cut out the storage, you don't have to pay for that. So it's just a whole lot of difference that you can make by just a little simple change like that. Okay, I'll stop there. I already know that the bulk of the comments are going to be positive or people who are sharing their debt-free journey, their experience, and I really appreciate that. But there's always people who comment that are judgmental with these things. But I think everybody, personal finance is personal. Sometimes people go into debt for good reasons, or it's just they didn't know what they were doing at the time, or even if they did, it's just a poor choice that was made. Like nobody is perfect, and sure, there are some people who make really wise financial decisions from a very young age, but it's probably because they experienced something in their life for them to be that way, whether it be their parents or some sort of experience that they went through, and that's why they did that. So everybody's situation is unique, and if you are in a situation where you're tackling your debt, you got this. I promise you it is worth it. Like, don't give up. You're going to want to. Debt-free journey is absolutely a roller coaster. I said that so many times throughout my journey. There were many times where I wanted to give up. There were many times where I was sad, frustrated. I could not see the light at the end of the tunnel until I got to a certain point where I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I promise you will eventually get there if you just keep working toward it. I am going to plug my coaching here because I love helping people to tackle debt. I think it's one of the most exciting things to start, like figuring out a plan, what to prioritize, the first thing to pay down, how much you should be saving, all of that stuff. If you need help with budgeting, tracking, you want to start saving money, you want to come up with a debt payoff plan, and you need any sort of guidance or accountability, I would love to be that person for you. So I have a couple of different coaching packages that will be linked down below, or you can email me to ask any questions. My email is also in my description box. So just wanted to plug that in case you're interested. And something else I want to mention here too, if you are at all on the fence, like should I post about my debt-free journey on the internet, on TikTok, on YouTube? Yes, I think you should. Like if you are interested in that whatsoever, yes, I built a whole business out of this. All I did was start by documenting my debt-free journey. And then years later, got out of debt, built a little business, quit my 9-to-5 job. And I do this full time. And it's the best thing ever. So yeah. Anyways, thank y'all so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one.